Sign this resignation letter, or we terminate you immediately. Those were the exact words. Can you imagine? After 21 years of pouring my heart and soul into a company, I was given 30 minutes to decide my fate. 30 minutes. I chose resignation, but not on their terms. Oh no, I wrote my own version. A single, carefully crafted sentence. 5 days later, their corporate attorney called me at 7:43 a.m., his voice tight with panic. "Miss Vaughn, we need to discuss the precise language in your resignation letter." Logan Pierce, the CFO, went completely silent when I explained what I actually meant. But before I take you to that moment, let me ask you something. Please subscribe and like this video. Listen to my story till the end, and let me know in the comments which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. Now let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Anna Vaughn, and I'm 46 years old. For 21 years, I served as the Senior Director of Global Operations at Ascent Systems, a software development company based in Denver, Colorado. I wasn't just another employee with a fancy title. I was the glue that held the company together. When the CEO forgot critical details about a major client relationship, my phone rang. When finance needed historical data from 2007 that no one else could find, they called me. I was the living archive of institutional knowledge, the one who knew every contract, every vendor, every process. I was indispensable until suddenly I wasn't. It all started 8 months before that fateful October day. In February 2025, Ascent Systems was acquired by Dominion Corporate Holdings, a massive conglomerate with a reputation for gutting companies. I'd seen it happen before. They'd buy medium-sized firms, fire the experienced employees, and replace them with fresh graduates willing to work for half the pay. I knew what was coming. I could feel it in my bones. The new management team arrived with their polished smiles and empty promises. Cameron Foster, the 35-year-old CEO, stood in the conference room I had personally designed and delivered the same speech I'd heard at least 3 times before. "We're incredibly excited about this partnership. Nothing fundamental is going to change. We deeply value your contributions." Lies. All lies. When executives say nothing will change, it means everything is about to change. That night, I sat at my dining room table with a glass of red wine and updated my resume. But I didn't stop there. My father, a construction foreman who spent 32 years fighting for workers' rights, had taught me a valuable lesson. Document everything. So I did. Every email, every contract, every policy, every conversation that seemed even remotely significant, I backed it all up on 3 encrypted hard drives. I knew I'd need it. The terminations began in March. 15 people, all over 42 years old, all earning more than $115,000 annually, were fired and replaced within weeks. They called it organizational realignment. I called it what it was: age discrimination and wage theft. But I kept my head down and my mouth shut. I wasn't ready to fight. Not yet. By April, they started targeting me. They excluded me from meetings I'd attended for years. They reassigned my responsibilities to a 27-year-old manager who had no idea what he was doing. They openly questioned my decision-making abilities in front of my team. It was classic corporate intimidation designed to make me quit voluntarily. But I refused. I showed up every day, performed my job flawlessly, and documented every slight, every exclusion, every undermining comment. My personnel file was spotless. 21 years of outstanding performance evaluations, 0 disciplinary actions, multiple awards. They couldn't fire me for cause, and they knew it. So they tried something else. But what they didn't know was that I was ready for them. Every move they made, I had already anticipated. And when they finally delivered their ultimatum, they had no idea what was coming. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'll tell you exactly how I turned their trap into my triumph. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know where you're listening from. By June, their strategy became painfully obvious. They weren't just trying to push me out, they were trying to humiliate me. On June 27th, Logan Pierce, the CFO, called me into his office at 4:45 p.m. on a Friday. If you've ever worked in corporate, you know what that means. Friday afternoon meetings are never good news. My stomach churned, but I kept my face calm. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me sweat. "Anna," Logan began, his tone dripping with fake sympathy, "we're restructuring operations to align with Dominion's global framework. We're eliminating your current position and creating a new role called Senior Operations Coordinator. You're welcome to apply for it, but the compensation is significantly reduced. $94,000 annually. I blinked. I'd been earning $192,000 plus bonuses. This wasn't just a pay cut. It was an insult. A slap in the face. They wanted me to do the same job for half the pay with a shiny new title to make it seem like a promotion. It was textbook constructive dismissal designed to make me quit on my own. I smiled politely and said, "I'll need some time to consider this." Inside I was fuming, but I didn't let it show. I went straight home and called Elizabeth Hartman, my employment attorney. I'd hired her back in April when the writing on the wall became impossible to ignore. Elizabeth was a force of nature. 28 years of experience, a sharp mind, and a no-nonsense attitude. When I explained the situation, she didn't mince words. "This is classic constructive dismissal, Anna. Don't accept it. Document everything and wait for them to make the next move." So I waited. 38 days to be exact. On August 4th, the email I'd been expecting finally arrived. "Mr. Foster would like to meet with you in conference room C at 3:15 p.m. today. Please make yourself available immediately." Conference room C. Not his office. That meant witnesses. That meant official business. That meant termination. I printed out my resignation letter, the one Elizabeth and I had spent weeks perfecting. It was one sentence, 42 words, and absolutely ironclad. I folded it neatly, placed it in my jacket pocket, and walked to the conference room. At exactly 3:15 p.m., I stepped into the room. Cameron Foster, Logan Pierce, Levi Coleman, and Stephanie Lambert from HR were seated on one side of the long mahogany table, their faces carefully neutral. Four leather portfolios sat in front of them, along with matching pens. It was all so rehearsed, so calculated. Cameron gestured to the chair across from them, the defendant's chair. I sat down, my heart pounding but my face calm. "Anna, thank you for making time to meet with us," Cameron began, his voice oozing fake friendliness. "We need to discuss your future with Ascent Systems." Translation: You're fired. Logan slid a manila folder across the table. "We're prepared to offer you two options," he said, his tone smug. "Option 1. You resign effective immediately. We'll provide 3 weeks of severance compensation. $11,077, plus your accrued vacation time. You leave with dignity intact. Option 2. We terminate you for restructuring purposes. You receive nothing. No severance, no vacation payout, nothing. And we note in your employment file that your position was eliminated due to redundancy, which doesn't create the most favorable impression for future employment opportunities." I opened the folder. Inside was a pre-written resignation letter on company letterhead. All I had to do was sign at the bottom. It was a trap, plain and simple. If I signed that letter, I'd be waiving all my rights to pursue legal action. For $11,077. After 21 years. I looked at them, young, confident, absolutely certain they backed me into a corner. Cameron checked his smartwatch, probably thinking about his dinner plans. Logan smirked, clearly enjoying his perceived power. Levi leaned back in his chair, already convinced he'd won. They had no idea what was coming. "I'll resign," I said calmly. Relief washed over their faces. Cameron even smiled. "Excellent decision, Anna. Very professional of you. If you could just sign right here." "I'll write my own resignation letter," I interrupted. The smiles faltered. Cameron hesitated. "Well, we've prepared one that covers all the necessary legal." "I'll write my own," I repeated, my voice firm. "Unless you're planning to dictate what specific words I'm allowed to use in my personal resignation letter." Cameron's jaw tightened. He couldn't force me to use their letter without admitting the process was coerced. "Fine," he said finally. "Write your own. We need it by the end of business today." "You'll have it within an hour," I replied, standing up. I walked out of that conference room, leaving them with their matching pens and their false victory. They thought they'd won. They had no idea. What I handed them an hour later would change everything. Stay tuned for part 3, where I reveal the one sentence that turned their trap into my triumph. Don't forget to subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. I walked back to my office, closed the door, and locked it. My hands were steady as I opened my laptop. I'd been preparing for this moment for months. The resignation letter was already written, perfected with Elizabeth's help. We'd spent hours on it, analyzing every word, every comma, every implication. It was a single sentence, 42 words long, but it carried the weight of 21 years of dedication and a lifetime of lessons from my father. I printed it on Ascent Systems letterhead, signed it in blue ink and made 4 copies. One for HR, one for my personal records, one for Elizabeth, and one for my safety deposit box. Then, at exactly 4:17 p.m., I walked back into conference room C. They were still there, now with coffee cups in front of them, probably celebrating what they thought was their victory. I handed Cameron the letter without a word. He skimmed it quickly, barely reading. Fine. This is acceptable," he said dismissively. He had no idea what he'd just accepted. "HR will process your final compensation," Logan added, his tone dripping with condescension. "You'll receive 3 weeks severance, $11,077, plus your accrued vacation time. And my outstanding expense reimbursements," I said calmly. I submitted receipts for $4,287 from the client meeting in Boston last month. "That hasn't been processed yet." Logan rolled his eyes. "We'll include everything," he said, already standing up to leave. "You can go now. HR will contact you about returning your laptop and access credentials." I left the room without another word. I went back to my office, packed my personal items into 3 cardboard boxes, and drove home. My phone buzzed with messages from my team, but I didn't respond to anyone. Elizabeth had been clear. Radio silence. Don't explain. Don't clarify. Just wait. And so I waited. 5 days. 5 long, quiet days. Then on Tuesday, August 9th at 7:43 a.m. my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but the area code was Denver. I answered on the 4th ring. "Anna Vaughn speaking." "Miss Vaughn, this is Jonathan Winters, General Counsel for Dominion Corporate Holdings. I need to discuss your resignation letter with you immediately. Are you available to talk?" I smiled. "Here we go." "Of course, Mr. Winters. How can I help you?" "There's some confusion about the language you used in your resignation," he said, his voice tight. "Specifically, the phrase effective upon receipt of complete settlement of all compensation, benefits, stock options, and other amounts owed under my employment agreement and applicable law. Can you clarify what you meant by that?" I opened my laptop to the detailed spreadsheet Elizabeth and I had prepared. 63 tabs, color-coded, with supporting documentation for every single line item. I'd been waiting for this moment. "Certainly, Mr. Winters," I said, my tone calm and professional. "It's quite straightforward. My resignation becomes effective when I receive complete settlement of all amounts owed to me under my employment agreement and applicable Colorado law. Until that settlement is received in full, my resignation hasn't taken effect, which means I remain an employee of Ascent Systems with all rights, benefits, and protections thereof." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I could hear papers rustling, someone whispering urgently in the background. Finally, Jonathan spoke, his voice noticeably tighter. "Can you repeat that?" "My resignation is conditional, Mr. Winters. It's effective upon, meaning contingent upon, receipt of complete settlement. That's basic contract law. An event is effective upon another event when the first event doesn't occur until the second event is completed. My resignation doesn't become effective until you pay me everything you legally owe me under my employment contract and Colorado state law." More silence. More rustling. Then finally, "And what exactly do you believe we owe you?" I smiled again. "I'm glad you asked. Let me provide a detailed breakdown." What followed was a list so thorough, so undeniable, it left them scrambling. Stay tuned for part 4, where I reveal the full breakdown and the chaos that ensued. Don't forget to subscribe and share where you're listening from. I could almost hear Jonathan Winters' pulse quicken as I opened my spreadsheet. Every tab, every figure, every detail was meticulously prepared. This wasn't just a list, it was a masterpiece of documentation, a testament to months of preparation and sleepless nights. I took a deep breath and began. "First," I said, my voice steady, "my base salary through the date of resignation, $14,769.23. Second, my accrued vacation time of 142.5 hours at my hourly rate of $92.31, which totals $13,154.18. Third, my outstanding expense reimbursements, $4,287. Those three items alone total $32,210.41. I paused, letting the numbers sink in. The silence on the other end of the line was palpable. I could almost picture Jonathan's face, his jaw tightening as he scribbled notes furiously. But that's just the beginning, I continued, my tone calm but firm. Fourth, my annual performance bonus for 2025. Section 6.2 of my employment agreement guarantees an annual performance bonus of 80% of my base salary for meeting operational targets. Not only did I meet those targets, I exceeded them. That bonus is $153,600. There was a clatter on the other end of the line, maybe a pen, maybe his coffee cup, maybe his composure. I didn't stop. Fifth, my stock options. I have 52,000 stock options that vested immediately upon Dominion's acquisition of Ascent. At the current market value of $22.18 per share, those options are worth $1,153,360. The silence now was deafening. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. The frantic calculations, the growing panic. Sixth, I said, my voice unwavering, my severance package. Section 8.4 of my employment agreement states that if my employment is terminated without cause or I resign for good reason within 24 months of a change of control, I'm entitled to 20 months of salary continuation plus benefits. That's $320,000 in salary and approximately $31,500 in health insurance premiums and other benefits. Jonathan's voice, when he finally spoke, was an octave higher. You're saying we owe you over $1.6 million? To be exact, I replied. You owe me $1,690,670.41, plus interest accruing at the statutory rate of 8% annually per Colorado Revised Statute Section 13-21-101, calculated from August 4th. And since my resignation hasn't taken effect yet, I'm still technically employed, which means I'm still accruing salary at my daily rate of $738.46, still covered by company health insurance, and still entitled to all benefits and protections of employment. The silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating. I could hear papers rustling, muffled voices in the background. Finally, Jonathan spoke, his voice tight with frustration. This is absurd. Actually, Mr. Winters, I said, my tone light but firm, it's perfectly legal. I consulted with Elizabeth Hartman, one of the top employment attorneys in Colorado. She's reviewed my resignation letter extensively and assures me it's ironclad. Conditional resignations are perfectly legal in this state and have been upheld repeatedly in case law. I could feel the shift in the conversation, the realization dawning on him that they had underestimated me. We'll fight this in court, he said, his voice trembling with barely concealed anger. You absolutely should, I replied, my tone pleasant. Hire expensive lawyers. Spend 6 figures on litigation. But while you're considering that, you should know I've already filed a charge with the EOC for age discrimination. I have documentation of 23 employees over age 40 being terminated and replaced with younger workers making significantly less money. I have emails, recordings, and text messages proving discriminatory intent. The longer you drag this out, the bigger the damages become. He hung up without saying goodbye. But that wasn't the end. Oh no, the real chaos was just beginning. Stay tuned for part 5 where I reveal how this battle ended and the lessons I learned along the way. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. 3 hours and 42 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time it wasn't Jonathan Winters. It was Logan Pierce, the CFO. His voice was sharp, almost frantic, as he launched into a tirade before I could even say hello. What the hell did you do? He barked. You tricked us. You deliberately wrote that resignation to what, Logan? I interrupted, my voice calm and measured. To protect myself? To ensure I received what I was legally owed? I wrote a legally valid resignation letter. You accepted it without reading it carefully. That's not my fault. The board is furious, he shouted. Cameron is getting calls from Dominion headquarters. Our CEO in New York wants to know why we're suddenly on the hook for $1.6 million to a terminated employee. I couldn't help but smile. I haven't been terminated, Logan. That's precisely the point. I'm still employed because my resignation hasn't taken effect yet. We're not paying you a single penny of that bonus or those stock options, he snapped. Then don't pay me, I replied, my tone light. Keep me employed. Continue my salary at $14,769.23 per pay period. Keep me on the health insurance at $2,625 per month. Let me keep accruing 401k matching contributions. Oh, and I'll need my office access restored since I'm still technically an employee. My email, my corporate credit card, my parking space, all of it. And since I'm still employed but you've reassigned my responsibilities to other people, I'm essentially being paid to do nothing. Which honestly I'm completely fine with. I can wait as long as you want. He sputtered, his words tumbling over each other in a chaotic mess of frustration and disbelief. We'll sue you. For what, Logan? I asked, my voice steady. For knowing my rights? For using conditional language in a legal document? Good luck with that lawsuit. But while you're at it, you should know I've already filed a charge with the EOC for age discrimination. I have documentation of 23 employees over age 40 being terminated and replaced with younger workers making significantly less money. I have emails, recordings, and text messages proving discriminatory intent. The longer you drag this out, the more documentation I accumulate, and the bigger the damages become. He hung up on me. 28 minutes later, my work email was reactivated. Someone in IT had panicked and restored my access, probably on the advice of a lawyer who realized locking me out while I was still technically employed could create even more legal problems. I logged in and found an email chain between Cameron, Logan, Levi, Jonathan Winters, and several Dominion attorneys. The subject line read, Urgent. Vaughn resignation issue, legal exposure. They'd forwarded my resignation letter to 6 different employment law firms. All 6 had confirmed the same thing. My resignation was legally valid, enforceable, and extremely expensive for them. One lawyer's response was particularly satisfying. You accepted a conditional resignation without recognizing it was conditional. She's correct about everything: the bonus, the options, the severance. You're on the hook for the full amount unless you want to litigate and risk even bigger damages for age discrimination and wrongful termination. My strong recommendation is immediate settlement. At 6:18 p.m., Jonathan Winters called me again. His tone was different this time, measured, almost pleading. Ms. Vaughn, Dominion would like to discuss a settlement to resolve this matter quickly and amicably. I'm listening, I said. We're prepared to offer you $950,000 as full and final settlement of all claims. That includes everything: salary, vacation, expenses, bonus, options, severance. Take it or leave it. I'll leave it, I replied without hesitation. As I explained, you owe me $1,690,670.41 minimum under my contract. If you don't pay, I remain employed indefinitely and file suit. Discovery will be fascinating. I have 21 years of internal records. Ms. Vaughn, be reasonable, he said, his voice strained. I am being reasonable, Mr. Winters. I'm asking for exactly what my contract entitles me to. Nothing more, nothing less. You're the ones who tried to force me out with 3 weeks severance after 21 years. That wasn't reasonable. Fine, he snapped. Final offer. $1.2 million. But you have to decide right now. $1,690,670.41, I said calmly, plus attorney's fees of $63,450. Elizabeth has been very busy on my behalf, and I need it within 20 business days via wire transfer. I also want a signed letter of recommendation from Cameron Foster on company letterhead, stating I was an exemplary employee who contributed significantly to Ascent's success. And you'll agree to a mutual non-disparagement clause. Mr. Foster won't. Then I remain employed and file suit tomorrow morning. Your choice, Mr. Winters. But I should mention that every day you delay costs you an additional $738.46 in my daily salary, plus benefits, plus accruing interest. And once I file suit, that settlement number will include emotional distress damages, punitive damages for age discrimination, and higher attorney's fees. The price goes up the longer you wait. He hung up. At 8:47 p.m. he called back. Deal. We'll wire the funds within 20 business days. You'll receive the letter of recommendation by Friday. Our lawyers will send the settlement agreement for your review by tomorrow afternoon. On September 3, 2025 at 1:18 p.m., I received a wire transfer for $1,754,120.41, the full settlement plus attorney's fees. That same day, a FedEx package arrived with a signed letter of recommendation from Cameron Foster, praising my 21 years of exemplary service and invaluable contributions to Ascent Systems. I doubt he wrote a single word of it himself. Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Cameron Foster lasted 7 more months at Ascent before being fired for missing quarterly targets by 31%. Logan Pierce quit in March 2026, citing irreconcilable differences in his resignation letter. The irony wasn't lost on me. Levi Coleman is still there, managing a company that's hemorrhaging clients because no one remembers how to maintain the legacy systems or why certain processes exist. As for me, I'm semi-retired at 46. I do occasional consulting work, charging $575 an hour, but my specialty has become career defense planning. I help employees document everything, understand their contracts, and protect themselves when management tries to force them out. In the past year, I've helped 19 people facing similar situations. 3 have negotiated 6-figure settlements. The 4th is still employed while the company calculates how expensive it will be to pay her what they owe. The lesson here? Know your rights. Document everything. Never let people in suits bully you just because they have fancy titles.